Hello and welcome to Women in Action with Bev Jessup. And today we're looking at change in our careers, change in our goals within our careers as speech therapists. And I just wanted to tell you also that I will be doing a conference, ASLTIP conference. So I will pop the link down below, and that's on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. So if you haven't joined that yet, it'll be a really good idea to do that, because I will be looking at how to do multiple streams of income. You know, I know that we see clients, and we might be seeing loads of clients right now, but maybe you're thinking, well, how can I get other streams of income so I don't have to be working 5 days a week or 6 days a week, and I can have a little bit of a quality of life, have that flexibility and that freedom and that lifestyle where I can spend more time with my family and just be well in myself physically and mentally. So if that's something you're interested in, it is a workshop, and I have, you can see here that there is actually a free workbook as well. So if you follow that link to teletherapyinaction.com/ASLTIP workbook. Okay, so follow that link. That will take you to the workbook. You can download the details and get the workbook, but you must sort of register with the course as well, which is a 1-hour workshop on Saturday evening at 7:30. So that's those are my announcements for today. But before I introduce my guest, I just want you to know I just want to ask you a question. Pop a link in the comments, because if you have any comments, make sure that you put it in the links, because we're on my Facebook profile page in my group, Teletherapy in Action Secrets group. So if you haven't joined that, let me just share those details with you now. So here you go. You can join Teletherapy in Action Secrets group as well for some extra tips and training. Right, so we're very, very excited to be having Cleto Tirabassi to come and talk to us. So I'm going to invite him back onto the podcast. There we are. Hi, Cleto. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on Women in Action podcast. And we're live across 3 platforms. So let's take it away. If you could tell me a little bit about yourself, where you come from and what you do, that'd be great.
Okay, so I'll keep it as short as I can. Born and raised in South Africa. I essentially did my studies and started working there before emigrating to Austria, 5 years there. And then since 2003, I've been in Italy. When I left school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I joined the Air Force since I enjoyed, as a kid, aeroplanes. It took a while to get to understand what I really wanted to do. Long story short, it's to work with people, and that's, it's gone across various different settings, from the military to human resources. And then eventually I found where it was that I wanted to focus those energies, which is sustainable wellness. Mm-hmm. So although that takes most of my focus these days, I still keep a foot inside the human resources field, if you like, freelancing and doing some assignments. For me, it's extremely important trying to help people find that work-life balance. And so HR essentially deals with people's goodwill, benefit, wellness in the workplace, if you like. Although these days most of us are working remotely, there's still an important balance we have to try and achieve between keeping healthy and earning an income. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Okay. So what inspired you to make the change? Where were you before, and then you changed to a different role? What inspired you to do that?
Well, I sort of found my feet with the personnel management, human resources, psychology, communication quite early on. And through the human resources experience, I found that certain, let's say, initiatives or innovative thoughts and ideas sometimes got stifled, because if you're working in a bureaucracy or a monolithic entity which has quite a hierarchy, there's not that much wiggle room for getting creative and trying to help people. And so with the UN, which I spent quite a few years working with them, that's pretty much where it came to the choice of either doing a lot of routine stuff in the name of HR, or actually getting my hands dirty and working one-on-one with people who are struggling to find the balance. And so that essentially was the change in 2007. So it gives me a lot more flexibility to do that, where I can take it where it calls me and where I feel comfortable.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
That's what I love about working online. I just pick up my laptop and take it wherever I want to
yeah,
go. And obviously now, during these times, we can't actually go anywhere without being fined. But before that, when I started in 2015, it just meant me taking my headphones and my webcam and laptop, and off we went to work and see these clients wherever. And enjoy I do love Italy, actually. That's one of my favorite places. So, yeah, slightly jealous of you being in one of my favorite places. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so I mean,
Hopefully soon enough we can start moving around again.
that's right. Yeah. um, I mean, I come across speech therapists who are really snowed under. Not only do they,
Mm.
some of them are still not doing online, some of them are still traveling, spending hours traveling, going from school to school, to clinic, or perhaps they are doing online and then they feel like they have to see loads of clients in order to make ends meet, in order to have an income stream that is
Yeah,
decent, and then they can live off. And I really feel for them, really, because I've got the luxury now of having that income stream of working part-time but not having to work full-time, so you still got that lifestyle, that work-life balance, which
correct.
is good for your health, but it's also good for your relationships, isn't it? So
Yeah.
what could you sort of tell us, a kind of like a story of someone that you've helped to go from that burnout situation, where they're trying to make ends meet, to actually making that transition to something else?
There are quite a few examples I could draw from, having worked in the United Nations quite a bit. Unfortunately, there's an organization that progressively has to try and make do with less funds coming in. Economies around the world are pretty cash strapped. So inherently, a lot of the staff are forced or asked or required to do more than they used to do. And although their salaries are pretty decent, many people are working 16, 17-hour days. And so there have been a few cases where, people were just didn't know what to do anymore. And there have been a number of resignations by people who have moved into something lower key, let's say. So the quality of life has gone up. Obviously, the earnings have gone down. And so the balance that they've achieved is far more sustainable, if I can use that word, because they have time to take care of their own personal wellness, spend time with loved ones, family, and actually grow and evolve and realize the passage of time, and actually be able to understand where they are, where they're going, and if they're actually addressing the needs and the wants to both live out with the purpose that they're supposed to, benefit others, and actually grow. So there have been a few cases where spoken to me about this during my time in the UN. There's not much you can do without saying, well, apply for a transfer or discuss it with your supervisor and try and find a way to redefine your role. the most important thing is not to let it fester, because many people suffer in quiet desperation, working long hours, earning decent income, and getting sick without realizing it. It's like a
Yes,
slow creep,
it
and
is. It
before
is
you
a
know it,
slow.
it can knock you off your feet.
Exactly. Yeah. And what I feel is I feel really passionate about this because there are some talented speech therapists there, and yet they're working either for online companies, other teletherapy companies, or they're working for schools or for, in face-to-face contact, and they're just working so hard, and then they have
Yeah,
whole paperwork to do that they get to a point thinking, there must be more to life. I want to do some
yeah,
traveling. They have these other desires, um, and
yeah.
but
The sort of
they
meaning
are
of life
afraid.
becomes
Yeah,
blurred. Yeah,
exactly, and they feel afraid to
yeah,
either charge more because that we talked
mm,
about that last week when we were talking to G about money mindset, and or they just feel that they don't want to be losing that steady income, but they don't know how to increase it and work less
mm,
hours. And that's something I
yeah.
teach on my course. Um, to try and make your teletherapy business profitable, so you're not actually working every hour that God sends, but you're still getting an income that works for you and your family and your lifestyle.
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, that is an excellent way to look at it. If you're constantly feeling obliged to undercut the market, you not only do it with less passion, but you also have to put in more hours. So it's like a vicious cycle, I imagine. And it just intensifies, and I don't see where people can eke out enough time to actually exist while chasing, you know, these lower rates that they have to charge. And I think I certainly me, but I know a lot of people undervalue themselves. It's perhaps a human trait which we all have to contend with, like, oh, I don't want to overcharge, and so I'll go with this. And you get comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we look at our competitors and think that we have to do the same as everyone else, and we
Yeah.
don't value our knowledge, our experience, and just our personal strengths. Maybe even our background. So, like for example, next week I'll be talking to my cousin in India.
Hmm.
So my heritage is
Okay.
Indian, and
Hmm.
my cousin actually works as a teacher in a special needs school, and she's got her own talents, her own experience, just as I have. But it's that heritage thing that, you are unique. And I don't know whether, sometimes speech therapists, we forget that we have our own personality, we have our own
Yeah.
background, that we could draw on in order to, make it make people come to you, be attracted to working with you
Because
rather
of
than
your
going
personality, and yeah.
yeah, instead of going
Yeah.
to your competitors.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's similar to language training. People who do that online, essentially, they will gravitate to a certain niche in the market, let's say, because of the not just the areas of interest, but the type of person that they are. They will attract a certain type. So I think it's also nice to be able to maintain your identity whilst you're doing something that many other people do.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah. I'm just wondering whether anyone has questions there. So if you have any questions, make sure that you put them in the comments, and we will respond. But what tips would you give then to
Mm.
speech therapists who probably undervalue themselves, or perhaps they're thinking, I want to transition from face to face to online
Mm.
therapy, but I've got all these fears um,
Yeah.
and concerns.
Well, I think one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the fears I would assume they wouldn't contend with is the ability to communicate, because this is kind of like daily bread. And so I think it's a case of getting comfortable with doing it via a piece of technology rather than face to face, which I think is something that's easy to achieve on the basis of it. And then to work at improving the delivery and the technique, I would assume. One thing from a wellness standpoint is, although I love technology and I love all these things that can be done on computers and desktops and so on, I also realize that if I spend too much time on it, that, I kind of feel a little like a fish out of water. So there have to be, that would be the tip I would give, deliberate breaks in your day for non-electronic work, whether it's reflection or just reading up on what you've done or the reports that you have to write, and not to do everything electronically. And even though in the early days I used to love taking notes on an iPad, and I loved the fact that it was all paperless, I've gone back a little bit to using a notebook and a pen, because it actually feels, that tactile sensation of actually putting your thoughts on paper,
Yeah,
even if
I
it is
think
related to your work.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I like writing things in a notebook, and it's
Yeah.
almost like a tick list. And I was telling
Mm.
someone about the things that I'm doing, and I had it all written down on the side here. I normally have a piece of paper when I'm seeing clients as well, but it's so nice to get, as you say, get away from the screen and go and sit somewhere
Yeah.
else or go for a walk, take a
Yeah.
little notebook with you, and write in it. So that's a really good
Yeah, we
tip,
forget.
actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we really do forget. And especially now, I mean, we keep making all these inferences to COVID. But COVID aside, 2, 3 years ago already, all these platforms were gearing us up all to work not just remotely, but to work more efficiently and to cut traveling times. So it's here to stay. Whether COVID disappears next week or endures for another 5 years, and so we've got to be, I think, deliberate in reducing screen time.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point. Yeah. And I mean, yesterday I was seeing a client, and she's 78, and she had a
Mm-hmm.
stroke, and she was with her carer, and we had problems with our tech. Actually, in the end, we shut down one platform, and I saw her on Zoom, and
Okay.
but it worked all right. But I knew
Okay.
that she was quite stressed with the fact that one platform wasn't working, and to sort of go
Yeah.
to another one. So I thought, well, let's do something that she really wants to do. And I thought about talking about her family. Now, on the back of her wall
Mm.
were these photos of her
Mm.
family, and but she's got a very severe speech, and it's really difficult to
Okay.
understand her. So we were using an iPad for her to communicate
Mm-hmm.
about the pictures on the screen on her wall. And she had lots of photographs, and she had this really old-fashioned photograph of herself and her husband. Her husband actually passed away about 3 weeks ago, and
Wow.
it was a very old photograph, sort of like sepia color.
Yeah.
And obviously she looked very young, and I couldn't work out how old she was. From that photo, she looked very sophisticated, and I was
Mm.
surprised she couldn't say the word 17, but she could write it down.
Okay.
And she wrote down 17, and her carer told me that she was 17 there. So we then recorded that information on her iPad. Well, her
Mm.
carer recorded it on her iPad, so that when she
Mm-hmm.
pressed that particular button, it would say, oh, this is a picture of me with my husband, and I'm 17, and we worked out that he was 28. Okay. But you wouldn't have been able to see that in that photo. And her face
Sure.
just beamed, and she's talking
Mm.
about that photo. And then she went on to talk about her granddaughter, and how old she was in that picture, and when she got married, and things like that. And I could just see the smile on her face and the sense of pride that she was telling me
Yeah.
information that I didn't know, but kind of information that she wanted to convey that was important to her.
Yeah.
So when you find something of interest in someone, it's really it's
Yeah,
really revealing,
you
isn't
can
it?
explore it, and you see the change. Well, I imagine this would have been quite challenging with someone who's suffering a speech impediment like that, but you can normally see that if they light up, that you can sort of explore it a little bit further, because it gives them this sense of pride and warmth and fond recollection.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
And it then became
yeah.
a two-way conversation. So technology was able to facilitate that.
Oh, that's good.
And so that's good, yeah. And in the
Yeah.
same way, I have done with her. I've actually taken my laptop and shown her my garden because I
Mm.
knew she had an interest
Yeah.
in gardening. And she would turn her webcam and show me her garden, which is actually much more beautiful than my garden. Um, but yeah, so it's
Well, that was good.
yeah,
Yeah.
technology allows you to have that connection, and so I
That's
guess
true.
the
We should
other
just
tip is relationships. Developing those relationships. Well, as a wellness coach, what
yeah.
tips do you think you'd give a speech therapist who's working long hours in terms of developing those relationships?
Yeah, I think I would use this. I would say to anyone is that your wellness can't be bought once it becomes fragile, or you've missed the boat and become ill. Hopefully, not chronically. So, in a general sense, one has to prioritize time and attention to doing things on a, I would say, daily basis. It should form part of your life. Otherwise, it's not possible to sustain it. Unlike the traditional diet, which has a start date and an end date, and then you wonder what the person's going to do after that. So it needs to be prioritized. So I don't do as much as I would like in terms of reflection and meditation, but those kind of things start first thing in the morning usually. Most of the experts will say that. But in terms of the physical wellness, whether it's a walk, a run, or stretching, yoga, strength exercises, it should be preferably first thing in the day. Many, many years of experience have shown me that things happen during the day and they will reprogram your day, and you will often be pressured to say, well, I'll do it later, and later comes and something else takes over. So the chances of you actually doing it become less and less progressively as the day goes on. So that would be my strongest suggestion, is try and prioritize it for the early part of the day. There are people who wake up extremely early and have to travel, or I mean, even in your workspace, if their work begins early, that they have to do it later. So wherever not possible, then obviously later will work, as long as it's sustained and that you try and stay in the habit. So
Yes,
consistency is definitely key,
it
and
is
find
very
something that works.
important. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That's great.
Um,
Okay, so
mm.
um, it's been really, really lovely talking to you. And
Oh, likewise.
how can people get in touch with you and find out a little bit what you do?
The easiest gateway would be my website, which is obviously www.myfitnessroad.com. And there
Okay,
people will find the links to contact me, my Facebook page and Instagram connections or links will be on the website. So that's
okay.
just all together, myfitnessroad.com.
Myfitnessroad.com. Okay, so if you put the links in the comments after we've gone ended this broadcast, that'd be really good. So thank you
Will
very
do.
much, Clay, for
Thank you,
coming
Bev.
on. And
I appreciate it.
I look forward to speaking to you again. Is it nice and sunny out
Yes,
there
indeed.
in Italy?
It started becoming sunny. We've had a strange mid to almost late March, in fact. It's much colder than it usually is. Although it's sunny, it's pretty frigid. But I think next week we'll hit the 20s. So we'll keep it warm for you for when you make your trip.
Whenever that is, yes, I look
Yeah.
forward to doing that. Okay, so thank you very much. Take care.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye bye.
bye. Okay, so there you have it. 3 tips
Okay.
on how to be more productive and think about the changes that you want to make from face-to-face to online therapy. You can do it, but you need to put certain things in place. Now, as I said, we also have that workshop on the ASLTIP conference, so don't forget to sign up for that, and I will put a link for that as well down below, so that you can grab that PDF. That's a free PDF at the teletherapyinaction.com/ASLTIP workbook. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. So next week I'll be talking to my cousin, so you won't want to miss that, to meet my cousin Margaret, who works in a school for adults with learning disabilities, and she's telling me about the kind of work she does and how that impacts those sort of clients. I'm sure there are some of you out there who work with children and adults with special needs, additional needs. So make sure that you tune into Women in Action and join the Facebook group Teletherapy in Action Secrets Group, where we have all this information hosted in there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Margaret next week. So until then, take care. Bye.